As an atheist, why should you believe in fairy tales? Why should you believe in God? Because the universe has a direction. It's called the second law of thermodynamics, which states that the total entropy of an isolated system will always increase over time. Entropy is defined as the amount of energy not available to do work. Therefore, what the second law of thermodynamics states is that the universe ultimately yearns to be one where every atom is evenly spaced out. This is sometimes called time's current, and I call it the universal force. Now, as an atheist, you might ask what this has to do with God. You might say that life is unrelated to physics and that life is just chemistry. True, you are correct. But chemistry has incentives. Schrodinger once said that what an organism feeds upon is negative entropy. Jeremy England, a more modern person, said, "A great way of dissipating more is to make more copies of yourself." Therefore, we can say that evolution is in service to the universal force. But you might ask, what about destiny? What about the idea of destiny and God? String theory and many advanced theories in physics make use of multiple dimensions. The three dimensions that we move around in is what we can see. Time is the fourth dimension, and we appear to be moving forwards in time at a constant speed from our perspective. That's why we always move forwards. The fifth dimension is time for the time traveler, or otherwise known as the ability to move through timelines. This goes on and on up through all the dimensions, up to the 26th dimension. Now I ask you this, if entropy acting through evolution is able to have you move out of the way of a charging rhino, could it not just as easily ensure that you were never meant to be near the rhino in the first place? Why would entropy be constricted in only 3 dimensions? Why not 4 or more dimensions? Is it wrong to say that the universal force plausibly guides you through time and not just in the here and now? It guides you in the future as well, for efficiency's sake. There's a good book written by Vaclav Smil, which goes into how every significant advance in human society has been due to an increased production of energy, which is equivalent to an increased production of entropy. Our power as humans came first from burning the potential energy of trees, then harnessing the power of animals which feed on grass, and finally fuels and nuclear power from below the earth, and also solar panels. If life and society are thus engines that organize matter to increase overall entropy production, then what is good and what is evil at the human layer? Morality is an operating system for coordinated human action, and this coordinated societal action operates through time for the universal force. Morality is a system that aligns the human mind with the will of entropy. Nietzsche says it best: there are no moral phenomena at all, only a moral interpretation of phenomena. Plato also demonstrates the importance of moral justification. He says, the direction in which education starts a man will determine his future. So in synthesis, if the universe has a direction, entropy, and life is a mechanism that rides that direction, and morality is thus the code that steers the collective unconscious of humanity, thus the great religious prophets can be interpreted as people who tuned the moral code of their age, locality, and people to align humans with the deep current of reality. You can call that nature, or you can call it, with the more proper formation, God. If you are intrigued by the premises and logic put forward, you may still feel a desire to say that this is not a God. To that, I would simply quote Isaac Newton, who said it best: nature is pleased with simplicity, and affects not the pomp of superfluous causes. The idea that you must justify your beliefs through some confusing chain of logic is certainly superfluous. Just call it God. Just call it God, bro. And with that simplicity, you can think more about the important issues. You can use that as a building block in the same way that you would use writing. It's the idea of God is a compression, and you can compress your complicated set of beliefs into these building blocks. If you are polytheistic, then the gods can be thought of as the different urges of the universal force. Mathematics can similarly be thought of as just magic. When you recognize that there is a purpose to life scientifically, it's simply a matter of recognizing that it is solely a matter of perspective and efficiency to say God, so that you don't have to re-explain this whole thing every time. When you realize that there is a universal force, it is fair to say that many tremendously lucky and unlucky events are acts of God, as they are acts of the universal force. Aspects of this force appear in the collective unconscious of humanity, as well in the great men of their age, and in the religious morality that we subscribe to. So to conclude, God is literally entropy, and God is the different aspects that appear in the human conscious. And I don't think we as humans should be so arrogant to think that we've discovered everything. And so it is most efficient and practical, and our ancestors have given us this wisdom here, that we should believe in gods and God as the different fundamental pillars of what we see are each representative of a different God. And this is how we can think of the world in a way that, as humans, is deeply natural to us and is deeply natural to our ancestors, and is something that we should continue to do into the future, because to do otherwise is to make things overly complicated for no reason and pretend that that somehow makes sense, even though it doesn't. Because as you can see, logically speaking, God does come from scientific principles. So I hope this is more convincing to you than the stuff, the people that someone like Christopher Hitchens would have debated, because I started off as an atheist and I just thought about it for a long time, and this made sense to me, and then I decided that I was going to believe in God, the universal force. And it's honestly great. It's better than believing nothing.